In a primetime news follow-up, a consultant psychiatrist is weighing in on what could have caused a policeman to forget his child in a car for 8 hours. He's suggesting it could be a case of forgotten baby syndrome. Shamela Pullen explains.
It's a heartbreaking story which has sparked widespread debate. 18-month-old Shalana Dobson died after being left in her father's car, a policeman, for 8 hours. He should have taken her to daycare after dropping off the child's mother, who is also a police, but instead he drove to work, forgetting she was in the car. Experts say there could be a psychological explanation for all of this: forgotten baby syndrome. This is when a parent accidentally leaves a child in a locked car with tragic results.
In our current environment, that we're under a lot of psychological strain. We're under a lot of emotional distress. We're under a lot of pressures. And this is not evenly distributed throughout the society. We see and we recognize that, for example, first responders, and especially persons within the public sector, armed forces, and the police force in particular, are even under more pressure and strain because of not just the pandemic, but the spiraling crime rate that we are faced with. And the demands are astronomical.
Consultant psychiatrist Dr. Jeffrey Walcott says the forgotten baby syndrome is more common in the U.S. when compared to Jamaica. However, he says when it happens locally, it can be very frightening. Dr. Walcott says people in these situations face psychological pressures and stresses that can oftentimes cause changes in their ability to function, which in the long term can lead to clinical problems.
In some instances, you might be heading to a job and you end up opposite the direction that you're planning to go to. So there are lots of reasons and things that could have contributed to the current tragedy that we are faced with. But those things are secondary to the reality that we have to deal with. And the reality is that you have two people who are now dealing with an overwhelming tragic event. And we have an entire society that is now currently dealing with the pain and suffering of dealing with the loss of this life.
He says that the affected family will need psychiatric support to help process the tragic incident. In the meantime, Dr. Walcott says this situation could have happened to anyone. It's why he argues that it is important for people to pick up when others are at risk so that they can get help.
Especially as it comes to the constabulary force, because I know Dr. Leverage has recently piloted a program for psychiatric and psychological support within the forces that looks at providing the help that most of these people are needing. And that we have to start recognizing that psychological pressure, psychological strain, psychological difficulties are not weaknesses. They are real disorders that impact persons who could be very resilient and very strong, but under unprecedented circumstances.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.